Okay, so I'm gonna check over here. We're not actually live over there yet. See how there's such a delay. Okay, well, I'm Sheila, and I'm joined by BZ Rieger and Lisa Flamino Rush. This is Conscious Conversation Central. Today is Sunday, 8th, 2020, and I'm really kind of excited about this conversation because it's not like everybody in the whole country really isn't having this conversation. As in, huh? What is going on?
Exciting stuff.
I know.
Fancy
And
stuff.
I know it just and I know that there's a lot of a lot of folks that are worried and oh no, that kind of thing, but I don't feel any of that myself.
Nothing to be worried about.
Uh-uh.
It might be creepy, but it's nothing to be worried about.
Oh, Bailey Lane, I'm so glad you could join us. So let me just say to everyone, this is a live recording that we're doing tonight. And I would love it to be interactive. And I will be keeping an eye on the questions and the interactions. So please don't hesitate. Jennifer Brown has joined us and said that what a gift to see you all.
Yay, it's a gift you joined us.
Yes, I agree. So, golly gee, where does one begin? I started last week before the election, actually started to suspect a few things in regards to what we might see take place. And I've kind of developed this whole expect the unexpected and just go with the flow kind of attitude about it all, for one thing.
Well, but is it really unexpected? And
no, really, it's not.
We've had signals about this forever. And what is it that we're trying to undo? Unwind and unbind everything. And what is involved in the everything? Fraud, and all the systems work perfectly. They work absolutely perfectly. And now people are just seeing how they work. If people think that this is the first time you've had an election that has been skewed this badly, then I can see you might be a little concerned, because this is a news breaking thing for you. It's not. It's been going. This is the way elections work. This is how people get put into positions that they need. This is how you have the illusion of choice, and oh, it's a tight race, and oh, my candidate's gonna pull it ahead, right? Or there was a recount and those people were bad and they did builds excitement. You can chomp in your teeth or go get some popcorn or root for the thing. It's part of the illusion of being free.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's what's changing now, though, is that we're finally some of us have seen it for a while, true enough, and we haven't seen all of it by any means, if you ask me. But also, it's just that it is the time of the revealing.
Right.
It feels like. So
well, and also, given what I just said about all the fraud and all the unwinding and unbinding, and the rules of all is that the game has to be unwound and unbound according to the rules of that game. And so we live in a linear construct with linear, legal, lawful things. And there are supposedly legal and lawful remedies for all these things. So you must go in and do it through that unwinding and unbinding. Well, in the game of legal and lawful, right, and courts and all of that kind of stuff, you need to be able to put evidence in. Well, how do you put evidence in? Do you put the evidence in before the crime has been unfolded or afterwards?
No, you're absolutely right.
Put evidence in so you have mountains of evidence, so that it's irrefutable, so that it's so wholesale with the fraud that if you're sound asleep, if you're snoring, you got lots of plump pillows on your bed and you keep putting them over your head because you don't want to wake up, you can't miss it. That's how it's got to be, apparently.
Well, I'm just, you know, like I have been actually even before the election, I keep going back to my conversation with Danny, lunacy. How do you tell an entire planet full of people that everything you've ever really been taught or thought or believed about anything, really, when you get down to it,
Everything.
it's just not at all what it was.
Right.
And we're seeing the answer to that, because honestly, the answer actually is you can't, first of all, because they won't hear it. They can't see it unless and until they want to. There's that. And I'll tell you, the reason I personally started suspecting a lot of what we're seeing now. I mean, we knew they were going to try something. Everybody, come on, hands up. Who didn't think that wasn't going to be a thing? But I don't know. It was like a few days, and I shared it in a live a few days before the election. Something came across my feed. It was that compilation of Trump disavowing white supremacy. And it was also in that compilation, there was a compilation of the talking heads and the opposition continually stating that he continues to ignore it and he won't address it and he won't disavow it. And I started thinking, okay, wait a minute. First of all, are you not listening? Because there's an entire, I mean, to any and every camera that would listen or that looked like it might be recording, he was saying this, but
that's
they're
part
not
of the
putting it, right. They're not putting it out there. So when I saw that,
part of the recipe for keeping people in thrall, for people, you know, it comes across their radar screen, and they're actually, people are far more intelligent than they think they are. They're far more gifted than they think they are, and they have a far greater sensitive acuity in their sensory array than they think they do. And you know, that was information coming, and they'd go, nah, you know, and they did it. Nobody's done, that's the other thing, nobody's done anything to any of us. We have been complicit in it all, and some of us are actively engaged in holding on to and more deeply rooting the lie.
yeah.
And that's the choice. That's cool, but you know, you can't, unless you get pissed off at yourself. I mean, you can get pissed off, but you know, that's part of it's part of taking responsibility, being able to what you're experiencing.
Well, and it feels to me like that it's just going to continue to get louder and more ludicrous, looking to, you know, again, those of us who think we know a thing. And I like putting it like that because I like to think I know something, but I also know in reality, I pretty much know jack all. But
there'll be a lot of coming out that everybody can know or not know. And then when it comes out, they'll go, oh, okay, look at that.
right.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like that started already.
Yes.
With some of the stuff that's been coming out in the last couple of hours, it feels like. There's stuff that I just didn't even know was a thing, and here it is. So, I mean, there's just going to be a lot to learn for everybody.
Well, and listen to, you can see them. So if you look at, and there's a bunch of compilations out there. I know that I've put some that I found on the IUV portal Twitter feed, and I may have put some on the IUV, but they're compilations of Trump's tweets for at least 6 to 9 months about mail-in fraud and all these kinds of things. And he's actually told you exactly what their plan was, because they know all of that, and because they're got NSA on them, and what the plan was and how it was going to unfold. And so he's highlighted the different things. Now, when they've done all of this and they've it's one of those things that, if you're going to lie, you just got to get better at it. Because right now, these people just bleep at the lying part. And they're not even trying to be good at it.
Well, yeah.
But we're getting tells now of, we're now moving into new phases of what information. That's enough. That's enough. We're chatting here, and you're going to just lay down because you have everything you need, except for your big giant shoe boy who's not in there. But you can do it.
I'm sorry, BZ. I have to say before she says just popping in, so I don't want to miss her while she's here. Journey into it. Crystal Hempel is in the chat. Hey, sweetie pie.
Welcome.
I'm so glad you could join us. I hope you can stay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, BZ. Please continue.
Well, they're starting to signal new things, meaning the White Hats, meaning Trump, meaning all of those who are in the forefront right now in front of the cameras, bringing all of this unwinding and binding down as it relates specifically to fraud in the election and so on and so forth. So Sydney,
I know, I've got it pulled up on my desktop. I was like,
was on, and she on Maria Bertrano's show this morning, and so there's, they keep going to commercials. So there's a few. I think there's 4 segments of it, and each segment is probably going to be about 3.5 minutes, and they go to a 60-second commercial and come back. And in the last segment of the interview, Sydney's now, she's wound through, about the hammer and the scorecard, and the hammer has actually been out there for a long time about what that's been going, but again, people have been choosing to just, so she lays all of that out about the actual things they've been doing, and it takes a lot of work. And this, they didn't just all of a sudden say, hey, let's just, backdate those things and we'll win. No. So this has been, it's systematic, and it's across all the states. And like I said, if you're going to lie, you need to get better at it because it's really sloppy. But then what she does is she lays in she brings in another algorithm that's being talked about, how they manipulate the different ways that the votes can be tabulated. And then she said it's not, and in this election, it's not just the president. They have flipped, Doug Collins' seat was flipped, and so he erroneously lost that election. And there are other ones that it's happened as well, and they've done it to certain Democrats. So if there were 2 Democrats running against him because for some reason there wasn't a Republican, they've swapped that anyway. So she just briefly touches it on. But what the coup de grace was is she then says, well, and this algorithm is the one that they've been using. And of course, first of all, if everybody would just stop for a minute and go, wait a minute.
You're going robo if you can hear me, or we're frozen, one of the two. Is it us, Lisa?
You're frozen, Sheila.
Yeah, it's you.
Oh, it's me.
Because I could hear her.
Yeah. Oh, you could? Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That's weird. You and I are on the same Wi-Fi connection.
I know.
Yes, we are.
So she's telling them,
maybe I'm hogging.
First of all, people should question, well, how is it that she knows this? If you just listen for a minute objectively, because she's giving you chapter and verse of how it's done. Because they have experts that know how it's done. Right. But what she lets out is now they're introducing the cards. So a card is being flipped over and being revealed now. That this isn't the only election they've done it to, and this isn't the only presidential election that they've done it to. And she kind of alludes to others, but she mentions Bernie specifically as in why he lost the nomination. And she's not talking about this one. She's talking about last time.
Yeah.
In other words, all this information is starting to, So this is why it has to be done, so that people, if they're paying, someone will pay attention and they'll do something, and hopefully a lot of people will read it and look at it and spread it around. And
Well, to that point, BC, what you're saying right there, actually, that makes that makes this other thing that I heard, and I'm looking for a date on here, but I don't see it. I hate these ones that don't put dates on their art. But I saw, and Lisa actually called my attention to it. So it's kind of interesting to me that that Rod Blagojevic, I don't know if I said that right, the former governor of Illinois that Trump pardoned or commuted a sentence or whatever he did. He actually told them,
Yeah.
Rod
right?
Blagojevich.
That's not the way it's spelled. It looks like Blagojevic. Anyway,
Okay.
sorry, Mr. Governor, but I don't mean to memorize your name. But like he's watching. But anyway, he said that stealing an election, a time-honored tradition. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. This is why most people don't even care to participate, usually because they know it's a farce, right? I mean, it's that wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Why bother? Because they're just going to put in whoever they want. I mean, we all that's the way I was looking at it after Perot. Yeah. This is the first time I actually bothered to vote since Perot. So that's a long time right there.
Well, and that's part of the problem that's exacerbating their sloppiness and lying and really being really bad at it, is that they were happily cheating along the way and it was working, and so Mr. Joe there was getting a whole lot of votes and everything else, and all these friggin' people not only came out of the woodwork and came to vote, but since people are not going to say, particularly in this election, they're even putting, I mean, I have footage on the Ivy and the Twitter feed where they're putting signs, Biden signs in their yard. They're wearing Biden t-shirts. They have absolutely no intention, but they figure that way they won't get lynched. They won't get mobbed. They won't get burned.
Oh, really? I did not realize
that. All across
I didn't realize it had gotten that bad.
Yeah. Oh, it's really bad out there. So if you live in cities or even suburbia now, people are pretending, right, to have these signs because they'd actually like to have a house to come home to.
Well, now I'm glad we kind of steered towards that, because I did hear something else today, and I know because I heard it come out of Harris's mouth myself on some talking point, that both she and AOC, for that matter, are making lists, and we're going to make these people pay. And
that's,
I mean, I'm sorry, but
communism is the gulag, and they're going to,
well,
on the, to go there. That's what they do.
Well, that's why I really, my druthers, and part of the reason I feel so calm is that we don't need any more division, derision. You're stupid because you can't wake up, that kind of shit. We just don't need that, and it's not helpful. And I've seen a couple of things about it, but you've said this before, BZ, about, well, then all we really do is trade shirts, and
right.
First of all, where's the fun in that for me?
No.
Secondly, that's not going to help anything. It's not moving forward. It's not allowing that old to die and stepping into the unknown, which is what
But that's what these people did. So in the reverse, they donned the shirt, right, or the sign,
right,
because they didn't want to have their yard empty, and they sure as heck weren't going to put the person they were really voting for. So they donned the sign in their yard, and they were They were good little, beavers, and they did their thing. And it's so funny, well, it's shocking. It's so surprising that all these people, because they went out. So in other words, when you're trying to, across many states and all the different counties, you're trying to steal the election. So you have a certain thought, because they have algorithms that can look in and see the trending. It's very statistical information. So if you're good at a statistician, in fact, now all the statisticians around the world are saying the way that this election was won is not only statistically improbable, it's absolutely impossible.
Yeah, I know. I did see that. Oh, I just got to tell y'all, we got
That's
17
why they had to have those 4 a.m. drops with the 120,000 ballots here and the 400,000 ballots there, because they had to shut the machines down because they said, holy blank, all these people, and they had to flip Democratic votes. So tons and tons of people were in blue counties, right? So in other words, it's a predominantly blue leaning county, except it was voting red. So they had to flip not only the blue counties, not only red counties, but the blue counties.
Well, I got to tell you about the whole finding all those votes. My sister sent me a little YouTube video that was so cute. Somebody has written a song about finding pallets of ballots.
I wrote a little song about it, like a hero.
Want to hear it? Here it goes.
The young man in the young man did it. Yeah, it's a great.
It was so cute.
I know. I thought that was so funny. Well, I guess, the thing is, here's part of what, because, and I feel like I can say this because, again, lifelong Democrat right here. And I want to say, too, not just lifelong, generational.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And there's something to be said for that. Because that's an entire belief system.
Yep.
And make no mistake, for those of you out there that are with us now or watching this later, when especially if you've been a lifelong Republican, and more than likely, even generationally speaking, just like any other sort of belief system or programming and conditioning, this is the exact same thing, as far as I'm concerned. So one of the things that I had to really finally see for myself, for one thing, because it's that, we've talked about this little twist.
Yep.
There's a little twist, because I always thought that the Democratic Party was for the little guy,
yep,
the disenfranchised, the one that couldn't get a fair shake, not out for the big bucks, like the Republicans, who just all they care about is the corporate America, and not me, the little guy on welfare with a kid whose husband took off, that sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's what I saw it as. And it has somehow or another become, and I think I know, but become the party of being all inclusive, including all, I don't know, I said earlier today 55, I don't even know the number of it, whatever the genders are and the different, qualifications of identifying as, that is looked at as the party that is all inclusive for everyone. Yeah, because so I'm sorry, but that's what I woke up to all of that. As long as you're identifying with something that you think is less than, come on, let me oppress you, because that's what it looks like to me at this point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Look at the various districts in I can't think of his name right now. The black congressman Elijah Cummings, who was 35 some odd years, and his district is just a pit. It's absolutely, you know, I mean, the people who live there say it's a pit. That it's just, and he would get, you know, untold zeros and commas of funds, and except the last time, that's why he's not here anymore, because they tracked it all. So there were markers in the money, and the money all got tracked. So they know exactly. And all of this will come out, chapter and verse of all of this. It has to, because it's the only way that all of this can be washed clean. People don't have, you know, they can see a headline or not. They can read the whole in depth. They can watch. They have chapter and verse. They've got every form of multimedia of all of this stuff on every single thing, whether it's from kids all the way, the whole range. They've got it all, and people can choose how much information they want to have, but it's all there.
Well, just like the numbers at the CDC, and I've been looking at just their numbers, and we all know what that, you know, the whole thing with some of the numbers being inflated and stuff and all of that. I see it as the exact same thing there as I saw, well, quite frankly, in the courtroom with Heather and everything that happened there. I now kind of get it. It has to go this way.
Mm-hmm.
It has to, because it has to be seen by every human on the planet. So it's actually still, in my view, the calm for the storm. Honestly.
Right, it is. Absolutely. Yep. Because the what's happening now is hearts are cracking open. You know, a lot of hearts have been slowly opening on their own, and or they've been bumped or nudged or shattered, or, you know, they kind of go through life like this, and but now that's all done. We have no more time for the slow thing, and so hearts are just shattering. They're being open with you know, all of those kinds of things, whether you're in Europe and the draconian things that are going, but at a certain point, everybody is responsible for themselves, and they've got to stand up and say, I choose.
Yep.
I choose to be free. I choose to breathe unencumbered. I choose not to listen to your baloney. I choose to pay attention to that, all of me that knows this is wrong, that something is really wrong here. And there's no coincidence that this is all happening at the exact moments. I mean, that the vice is being brought down on all the people, and you're seeing the reveal of everyone's, to this point in time, their true colors in the way that the role that they have been actively playing.
Yep. That's what I think too.
Choose to change that. You know, they can change it in midstream. But if you're looking at Boris Johnson, you know, he really is a white hat. He just doesn't have any cojones.
Jennifer was sharing here that someone, she says a teacher type, told her daughter that one is more likely to get struck by lightning 3 times than to have voter fraud. And so, now, I want to say something about that. No, seriously, there really are folks out there, especially because it's, you know, the Trump supporters, those crazy Trump supporters.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm sorry. Here's the thing. I don't feel badly, but I have compassion, because honestly, this is going to be a big shock, and a lot of folks. I remember, and I think we touched on this when we met the last night right before my live. That young man, and I wish I had a link for it. There was a young man who was a Democratic.
You broke up.
Yep.
He's a lifelong Democrat. He says he looks to be about 28, 30. He was certified as a poll watcher. He had voted Democrat. He was there because he didn't want any Trumpians stealing, you know, the election or any kind of stuff.
Right.
He's in there, and he comes and does, you know, pulls himself away, and he's kind of shy on, you know, like this on camera, you know, thinking that he's going to get whacked. And he says, And he tells you that. He said, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I'm here as a poll watcher, and I had to make this video. He said, I'm absolutely appalled at what I'm watching, that they are stealing President Trump's election, right? Just wholesale. And the energy that he was bringing forth. Well, they have chapter and verse of that, of a lot of people. What's going to be very hard, and where a lot of compassion will really be needed, is that and it won't take very long to do it, but when all of this comes forward, when they clean, and show you, and they'll have it all documented, because the because they watched it live, if this is a great heist, right? So they watched the great heist in a skiff live in a command and control center by the National Guard that's doing all of this, right? And when they created all the ballots, because they also did it in sync, so they've got two different structures going, it's a blockchain structure. And just like blockchain for Bitcoin or anything else, it all is watched. You can't not, there's no way to infiltrate it. So it's simulcast, and there's a coding, like a number sort of sequential thing that's on each one, so they know where they all went. They know who they mailed out to. They know where they went. And once they clean that so many were just made up ballots, right? Where the compassion is because every state will be read in a legal way.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that every single person, in the United States voted for Trump. No, but every state will have been carried by Trump. Every single state.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Wow, that in and of itself is.
And the reason for that is because hearts were opening, and people may not understand all of it, but they knew that something was very wrong with the world. And they may not have liked Trump, and they may still not like Trump. Right. But they knew that something inside of their heart was telling them that if you want to choose freedom, Orange Man, you may think he's the baddest bad orange guy going around, but if you want freedom, that's where to go.
We'll get behind the orange.
So that's what I'm saying about the hearts, cracking open, because you can't tell someone a thing. You have to let them have their heart choose when it gets knocked or bumped or smashed or shattered, and then choose to see the thing.
Yeah. Well, that's why it just, I don't know, even for the last several months before, well, it's been a little longer than several months for me, actually, coming to the conclusion that there is no more red pilling. There really never was, but, it's just that it doesn't work. It's just frustrating and aggravating to you because you feel like they can't hear you when in fact they really can't. Not right now. Not right, and maybe not even ever. It has to. There's something. That's why we call it waking up. For one thing, you can't tell somebody. You just can't. They have to be shown, and that's what all of this is about. And I think it's happening exactly in the way that it's supposed to. That's one of the other reasons that I love the whole thing about trust the plan, because it doesn't just apply to whatever that letter back there said. It's also metaphor.
Well, and it's a big plan, and it's way beyond this planet or galaxy or this particular little multiverse over here.
Right. Well, you're right. It is. It's a huge plan because it's a multidimensional plan, but it's also a very, very personal.
It is. You're the plan.
It is individually personal.
There are 3 plans right here on camera, and they dovetail in and they co-create. They have a coordinated, cooperative co-creation together. But nonetheless, there's that whole plan and the singularity of the plans, and that's why it's so strong. That's why it's so powerful.
Well, I want to take a moment and give a shout out to all the folks that are here. Like I said, I welcomed Bailey Lane. Ageless Nerd for you two is Katie Hosso's sister Kim. Just so you know, she's in the house tonight. Katie Hasso, OG Gal Pal, is in the house again tonight. Yay. Yeah. Fawn is in and has joined us. My sister Teresa is here. Jennifer Brown, as I said. Adrian Fitzgerald, so glad you could join us. Angie Atkins has come on board. Like I said, we saw Journey into It. For everyone, like I said, Journey into It is the gal who has done the BQH, BZ and I that we've shared. Let's see, Mike Ford is in the house. Hey, I'm so glad you could make it. Stacy Watchell, I do recall, I think you're kind of a newer viewer, or at least you're a newer commenter, so welcome. Donovan Myers has joined us tonight too. Teresa said, I've never known our entire planet to be more connected than now. Well, that's true because a whole hell of a lot of people paying attention all of a sudden. They may not be paying the right kind of attention yet, but they will be.
But they're paying, you know, the energy is paying attention because it'll not only unravel what actually happened in this election, but as Sydney was, I mentioned earlier, was, you know, is starting to signal, they're going to lay down for all the elections.
Yeah,
So
I want to go find that.
what they're going to lay down is that Hillary didn't win the popular vote in the last election.
Yeah, no, I know. I really I agree with you on that, and I really want to see that piece you're speaking on with Sydney. I only saw the 5 minute and some odd sections piece that she did with, and it wasn't with Maria. It was with Tom Fitton and Lou Dobbs.
Yeah, no, this one was
And
with Maria. Like I said, I have them all on the IUV Twitter feed. What I'll do is pull them in. I've been working, so that's the way I can grab it. It actually goes out on the Twitter feed, but then I can go through the smaller bunch of a million things instead of the much larger bunch.
right, no, I gotcha.
And pull
Well,
IUV.
I just sat there with my mouth open most of the time Sidney Powell was speaking.
I know, I was like, this feels different.
Yeah, I mean, it really did. Even for Fox, I mean, I'm sorry, but that, see, what, and that's why I said when you said that, BZ, about what she said in regards to, you know, this is a card now, this is a, and the fact, I honestly, I kind of feel like this comment from the former governor of Illinois, it's well timed, wouldn't you say? Well timed. And that's why I say, so yeah, or at least I can at this point, after having watched everything that went on in Knoxville and sitting there going, why is not everybody seeing this? I don't understand, because I really had a hard time with that. You guys all know I had a really hard time with anybody not seeing the obvious. How do you get $31 million out of the Fed into your own personal account if you don't really have an account? And nobody seemed to be having a problem with this, right? And it's the same thing.
It's that cognitive dissonance. So,
right.
You know, if that tweet goes off, they go, no, there is absolutely no possibility for voter fraud, because at the same time, their being is going, okay, hang on. If they could so easily have such massive fraud here, and the orange man bat has been talking about how much there is fraud, then part of them is going, well, hang on, that means last time and the other time, or that time and what, that this has been going on because we're that clued in, because we're that tuned in and turned on, because our sensory array is that sensitive and intuitive and knowing. We just haven't been listening to it.
Yep. No, I agree. Is in for a big surprise when all the truth comes out about the fraud, and that really is true. I really do feel like that. And there, I think that's why, you know, Magenta Pixie was saying in one of her most recent, and because she said it before, but when she was remote viewing this time right now, that this being the a much larger wave of awakening, and I can feel that coming. Well, I kind of felt like that when I saw that young Democrat that we were just talking about that was appalled. He was just appalled by what he saw,
Right.
because and
And
there's been loads of those kind of videos. There was another fella from Michigan that was so very nervous, but he was talking about what he found with, a man who would have to be 118 years old that voted in Michigan. And oh, by the way, no, he actually died in 1984. Here it is right here. So,
but if you can find those, go to the IEV or wherever you go, they're easy enough to find. But tune in, use your sensory, because what you're seeing is that and it's the case regardless of what Democrat or Republican stripe or whatever it is, right? But it's particularly for some reason, I think in the program we take more notice of it if it's like, and this gentleman was a Democrat. But what he's voicing and what he's toning is this deep visceral revulsion of how it's like he's watching a Chernobyl sort of an event in his own body, because it's his belief system, because that is what the unwinding and unbinding is doing. That's what it means.
well, that's true. And that's another reason why I feel like just keeping that compassion forefront, because I know that some parts of these, what we have termed awakening, can be painful. They can be scary. Because you're right, BZ, it is, I almost want to use almost like a melting of a portion of your belief system right before your eyes, and you're just gobsmacked.
Yes. And now is the time where it's gobsmack after gobsmack after gobsmack after gobsmack. There will not be any. Right now, they're from here until it's all completely out, on every system, sector, segment, everything, right? All of the stuff that will be absolute data, absolute transparency. There won't be any break. We've had, people have said, well, why is it taking so long? Well, it's actually, for a lot who are learning things, it's a good thing that there's been that spacing because of what you're talking about. There won't be any breaks anymore. This will go right into, this will quickly go so that you can see all of who's actually won the election. And as soon as that happens, he won't wait for inauguration. Sidney Powell's already, she just hasn't gone up, to go through the process to be sworn in, to be approved and sworn in as the FBI director. But you're seeing her, right, as the acting FBI director.
Assuming the role.
Going on. And but so all of this, think of any system, any structure, any segment, and the way it works is exactly the way it's designed to do, and it's all a lie. It's all an inverted. Everything that you thought was, the good things and all that kind of stuff are all inverted. And so all of what we've all been complicit in, and what we funded and what we've actually thought we were, voting for or wanting to do something or putting our energy in or investing in, or there's lots of ways you can use it, has all been to our own detriment on purpose. Just was sold, as something that was good for us. So all of those things will come out, every single one of them. And not just one at a time, like there will, there'll be waves in segments of society or structures or different parts of all the fabric of the existence that is, life on planet Earth.
Yeah, I don't, I don't see any other way around it, I really don't.
Nope.
Um, there was something in my tablet flipped out, so I totally I had something come in and then it left. So, oh, let's see. Well, Kevin Westring has joined us, and he said that video was tagged within 10 minutes, stating that it was found to be false by the Ministry of Truth.
Wow.
Well, you know, of course. Uh, I want to say,
It
oh,
was
so
right
Heidi,
over the target.
Right. I've kind of discovered something. So we all know that, people project and that's sort of what's happening here. But I've been like really paying attention to the projections, and they're, for me, they're giving me insight into exactly what they're doing and why and how they think about it and what that plans to accomplish. Whatever it is that they're projecting onto the president at this moment, um, is their plan. And I just love it because I feel so in the know. I'm like, oh, that's why you did that. Well, that makes perfect sense now.
no, you're right about that. It does well, and so, like I said, the continuing on of whatever nonsensical, farcical thing they want to come up with, and oh, never mind that the truth is right here and it's being said all the time. You just sit down and we'll tell you what to believe now. Don't worry about that over there. Don't worry about the fact that the man does have something called C-SPAN and all on him for almost every word that comes out of his mouth. And you really could go and hear all of what he has to say from A to Z, from beginning to end. But we're gonna show you what we want you to see. And that's why I said it's almost comical to me at this point to see some of the comments from some folks. You can just tell who's actually just watching the news and repeating what they hear. And when I said what I said earlier about what my observation has been about the party that I grew up in and spent most of my adult life in, is that it's all about, it's some of that, not just the projection, but what image a person wants to hold. You see, being a part of that inclusive group means that I'm politically correct and I'm doing everything that society says I should.
And what it is too is the energetic of, obviously do as I say, not as I do. But it's like when people say, oh, I help those poor kids, or we give them hand-me-down. But you're telling that not because I had this great idea and this was a good way and I found out that this is really useful, right? So it makes my heart sing and it makes their heart sing and this is cool. They're telling you because they want to think they're virtue signaling. So they
I know exactly.
And the other thing is that you were talking about, it made me think that it's so wonderful how, well, Source's plan is pretty spectacular, but so you had the walk away movement, right? And Brandon, who started it, the gay hairdresser from New York City, and he was, as staunch as you could possibly be as a New Yorker, that the orange man was not only bad, he was vile, he was filthy, he was disgusting, and we just need to completely obliterate him from the earth.
Right.
And then something happened, and he very quickly learned that he was like on the receiving end of, gay lynching mobs, because who was this white gay guy who all of a sudden is thinking for himself, not in the whole cadre of, the right think of this, that, and the other thing. And so what it did, because it was such a beautiful amalgamation of all beings, of all stripes, of all identification, however you want to say it, And they learn very quickly that, yes, to stand for themselves and to give voice to what they were feeling and to carry through it, but to be mindful of where they were giving voice to it. And the reason I say that that was so powerful is it was a really good way, a very helpful way for the general public or the general vote casting public wholesale across the United States to go, oh, okay, I have a plan. I'm making a plan. I see what's going on. Something's really wrong with the world. I now know who I'm voting for. I'm keeping my mouth shut. I'm going to go buy this t-shirt and I'm going to put it on and I'm going to put it in my yard. Rah, rah. Because so they had, I mean, there were huge examples of people were actually being beaten and fired and all these for walking away, for changing their political affiliation. So it made actually more votes for Trump that couldn't be tracked because it was, you know, kept close to the heart.
Well, I've been trying to keep up with the comments over here, and I wanted to share that Kevin Westring is saying that his best friend is a retired lieutenant colonel with the Marines. He said they tested the voting apparatus in 2018 election. With technology involved, you can see the fraud occurring in real time.
Yeah, that's
so that does go. Yeah, exactly. That's what you were speaking on earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
well,
they went across to the Eisenhower building, and they had their popcorn, and real time from early in the morning till late in the day, they just, oh yeah, hey, look at that, look at that person's strong, they're carrying 100,000 ballots right there.
Yep. Donovan Myers shared that he said, I have some liberal Democrat friends that would literally die before questioning mainstream narratives. They have fanatical faith in everything CNN and MSN says. Well, and I realize that that's true. You know, I've met a lot of folks, as a matter of fact. I know one locally that when I first met this person, had all the same talking points that you hear everybody else that has to say about Trump. All those same talking points, how he was just a despicable human and all the horrible things. And I could tell by what was being said that all that person had heard were the talking points, to be quite honest.
Right. And here's a wonderful thing that what you just said and Donovan said, you know, comes up for me is that you can tell that this is all of the new energy. So this meaning those who are trusting in the plan, those who are waking up on various levels, and every moment it's a new level for themselves, right? Their heart is cracking open more and more and more, and they're realizing that it's not just this, and it's not just a military plan, it's not just this, and it isn't just Democrats and Republicans, and oh, okay, it's all of me that's waking up, and that's right. So all that, but you can tell that that's the true thing because it's not hierarchical, and there is no gloating. There is no, oh yeah, well, you know, you lose because you didn't come on the Trump train or anything. There isn't, you know, in those people who true, and it's 99% of them, that it's from the heart.
Yep.
And so you know, you mentioned, well, they would die, or Donovan said that they would die before they went across mainstream. Well, and that's the cosmic irony, isn't it? Because it's from something from the heart, and something that is no hierarchical expansion, right? It's just pure expansion. That where they were slated to do and what they were slated on was actually to die or be put to death in various ways for various thoughts, or just because it's fun. You know, that's a real thing. They like to do that. And it doesn't matter how long or how firmly they've been in that camp, because anytime that they choose for themselves, to listen to themselves, never mind anybody else, right? Just listen to themselves and let their heart crack open and look around and go, wow, that love will embrace them. So that's how you know it's not a regular election, it's not a regular movement, it's not any of those kinds of things, because there are no hard edges to it, meaning that, you know, you did that, so that's the beauty of it.
No, I think you're exactly right. For one thing, as can be noted, from my perspective anyway, in regards to, you know, all those who, I don't know, I have this sneaking suspicion that, you know, even, okay, let's take that fellow that started the walk away thing. Okay.
Brandon, yeah.
Perhaps because I really do feel like we each kind of set it up exactly how it goes down. I don't know, but there are things that will ping us in this awakening, and it's something that we set up prior to coming here, and it's just a matter of whether or not we hear that ping, that we are able to allow ourselves to hear that ping when it happens. And because, you know, there, folks talk about the thing that they woke up to, right? Or at least I did, because when I started waking up, to use that term, it was to all the corruption on the planet via zeitgeist. And, you know, there's a lot about the spirituality in the first part of zeitgeist. And, well, I kind of already had an issue with the religion thing. So, you know, I see that. I got that. Okay, that's cool. But I didn't think about the whole, you know, overarching metaphysical, you know, who am I and all that. No, the ping I got was about the corruption on the planet. It wasn't until later. So I think that it's a varying thing. And it's almost like once your eyes start cracking open to something, it is that heart cracking open at the same time. Then there's, wait a minute. This too, you know, it just, I don't know, for me, it just seems like it becomes easier and easier and easier, you know, to being open to seeing things of all, you know, sort of sorts, right?
Yeah, and that's where that calming, that knowing, that holding of it, where because it's not an intellectual exercise, you pass through a bazillion of those as you get to that point. And when something new comes up, you may not have seen it coming, but now it's there, and so it just is. It's nothing to get all head up about it. You go, oh, well, that's a pretty intricate way to do it. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And, you know, you just go with it because, and you oftentimes you'll find that there was a lot of things that you know, so if it's, you know, like this voter fraud, you didn't call it in your brain voter fraud, right? You didn't know that was the, you know, we're going to have a voter fraud op.
Right.
But when it's there, if you've allowed yourself to have your heart crack all the way open, and you have multi locational consciousness on this, and you've widened that aperture, then you can go, oh yeah, okay, so yeah, I can see. So that's letting more apertures wide open. It's letting more data come in. It's letting, you know, a way to juxtapose and have people jockeying within themselves. Never, you know, just within yourself. Everybody else disappears.
Right.
And you go, and when you have that push me, pull you, so those things are getting rubbed and shaved and, you know, and jackhammered and, okay, chainsawed and, you know, off. That's right, chiseled, every implement you can think of off. And so that lets in more light, because as the heart cracks, light comes in. But what's very cool is it's not like it's shining from a spotlight, you know, down on you that someone else is doing. The light comes in from your eternalness, from your eternal sun that's right here, and it radiates like this burst
Mhm.
throughout you.
Yep. Well, I wanted to say that, well, for one thing, Kevin said, yeah, they walked right into the trap that they had laid for them. So and I really do feel that's true. Q Team has joined us. So welcome, Tim. I'm glad you were able to find us this evening. There's a lot here. Yeah, I want to answer Q Team about, he's asking if about his body warmth at night and if that has anything to do with his expansion. Ask your body. Your body will tell you. It really will, I think. Just listen. There's a lot of in here too. I think it was Stacy. I think I saw where you said that your heart has been opening too. Yeah, open to love, open my heart, open to truth. It snowballs. It does.
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin was saying he's had to shed a little bit of clothing too this evening. Well, I don't know how many of you guys have watched us in years past, but there were times, man, I really do feel that that can represent, at least for me, when I asked, the burning off of some programming.
It is. It's burning off of dross and distortions. Absolutely. And
Yep.
then, so you're burning them off, and then you'll be freezing, and that is the expansion, because you're reorganizing everything. It's funny. I don't know if Krista's still in the chat room, but when she and I did our last journey, out all around the galaxy, towards the end, she was like, "I'm freezing. I gotta go put some."
Yes, it really, that, I mean, that was what I was getting from my own guidance too. So that's the way I look at it for me. And that's the reason I told you to ask your body, Tim, because it's different for each one of us. Just because that was the guidance that I got for myself, and I think the two of you feel the same, doesn't necessarily mean that that is what it is for you. And it's not all the time either. Like sometimes I get hot and it's got nothing to do with it. So, but I do ask.
Also
So
not clear cut demarcation. So you can't say in this moment you're hot, you're doing it right. But if you're having a wave, if you're having a conversation, or if you're processing something or working through whatever, different ways you can do it, and
right.
you'll notice that all of a sudden you get very hot, and um and you don't have to have any clothes on, you just get hot. You can actually feel the wave. It's going through all the levels. The waves are going through all the levels and layers, way out of all of your bodies, and as they're shedding things and what's happening, the video that I'm seeing right now is that it's like we talked about this before, where you watch water boil. So all the molecules are getting excited, and so as they move, they shed off the parts that no longer are of service, and then they have the integration comes, and the act of the integration is the heat, but also, since all those molecules are now integrating, right, which is expansion, there's a moment where you're freezing, because it's like if you eat something, you go outside, you're taking your blood away from your extremities, and so it gets cold. That's that's a poor rudimentary description from a linear thing.
Well, and Susan Trebes also, who has joined us, said that when she gets hot, I'm burning off the darkness, and then sometimes I get cold, incoming light to replace the darkness. See, that's why I say everyone who goes through this, I think eventually, at least for me, because I really wanted to know what it was, so I just kept asking until I got it, until that was what my own guidance was too. And I do ask sometimes, because I'm like, okay, wait a minute, I'm not doing, what's this about? And it's just, passing little warmth or whatever. But generally, and most specifically for me, it's always it's a fluctuating thing. I'm hot and then I'm cold right after. It's very, very odd when that happens.
And
But
with your heart, we've had this too. I call it the moving trucks, where there is heart expansion. And I remember the very first time I had that happen. It was 2, 3 in the morning, and I was still married, and I got up and I sat on the couch and I thought, well, this is interesting because my body is feeling like it's having a heart attack, and there's constriction everywhere and incredibly painful, and I'm not waking him up because he's not much use. And so I'll just sit here for a while, and different dogs, the dogs were around my feet, and the kitty was there, and I was on the other side of the country. But I wasn't, so if I was alarmist, or if I was, someone would say, "Oh my God, you're having a heart attack," because there was a lot of the classic signs. But I knew that there wasn't. I knew something was different, and I was just entertaining myself as, well, I guess I'll just sit here. I got the dogs, and I'll just have a heart attack. It's a nice couch, it's nice moonlight, And that's what it was. It was the very first heart expansion, and that was of that where you could really feel it, and that was, I don't know, 20 years ago. But the other day when I did that journey with Crystal, Journey into It, I've had lots of big moving trucks, and I have to say that this one was the biggest one ever. I mean, the moving trucks were kind of galaxies wide sort of a thing, and it was. But what I felt as it was happening, and then afterwards for many days, is on a scale that's never happened before, that everything completely changed. That the molecules are all different, and the eyes, the sight in various ways are all different, and the sensory ray, maybe if it had 10 different things and did this, is goes all the way around, and it's a different kind of, I would say, it seems like it's a different kind of knowing and seeing and interacting. But as I was thinking to say that, that's wholly inaccurate, because it's just an expansion of the same thing. It just seems like it's different because there's more to it, or more that I can avail myself of. But that's what everybody, in their various, wherever they are, is going through right now. You can't help but do it, because we're on the fast track now.
well, that's something that I am diligently keeping right here in the forefront of my consciousness, in regards to what is happening on the world stage right now. Because as quite frankly, a lot of us, again, I'm gonna use it like this, who think we know a thing, that might feel like we woke up a little early or whatever. Part of the reasoning I really do feel part of that is because, well, we chose it for one thing, and maybe they're thrill seekers, and that's the other thing. But as this goes along, we've had, especially like, say, the two of you, because you've really been doing this pretty much your whole lives, knowing a lot more than a lot of others, right? I mean, again, I know there's nothing missing. I realize that, and I'm not saying, but some of us chose to keep themselves in the dark a lot longer, right? And so, and although I'm not completely in the dark now, I'm I also think about those who chose to keep themselves in the dark even longer, and wait till they're riding that razor's edge, and so I want to, for me personally, we've talked a lot about this before. We don't want to just trade shirts with the other guys and go through derision. And no, I get it. It sometimes can feel exasperating, because again, you think you know a thing and they don't want to hear it. believe me, there's some real big comeuppances soon for folks that they're going to have issue with their own selves. They don't need any of the rest of us piling on top of it, saying, I told you so. If you could just listen to me, because God knows that's how I would have acted, as little as 3 years ago. You both know that. Anybody that knows me actually knows that. So, I personally am being real mindful of that, because this is not an easy process, the waking up thing anyway, on any sort of level.
It's not for the faint of heart.
No, and we're all going to do it. So, and it just, I don't know, I think it goes, for me, I just don't feel like it would be very helpful. So, and because, but when that, because there's a lot of goading going on out there, and it's been really hard for me, because I've seen really, things about how, he won't concede. And I'm like, thinking to myself, yeah, Hillary to this day still hasn't conceded. So, okay, big whoop. So what? All that kind of thing. This kind of thing too about the press projecting. A lot of folks, my sister, I'm so glad you found that, Teresa, found a picture of Harry S. Truman holding a paper that says Dewey defeats Truman. So this is not the first time that's happened either.
Right.
Because Dewey was not president, Truman was. So, and every state apparently, not every state, but the dates when things have to be done and certified and all that.
Right, and none of the 50 states have certified any results, because most of them hadn't even been counted yet. They haven't finished counting.
So, it's still a lot going on. But like I said, when I did this whole thing of, just saying it and just keep saying it. It's a lie, but by golly, if you say it enough times, they'll believe it. And golly gee, ain't that the truth?
Well, it has been, and that's why there's particularly annoying and upsetting to them, because it's not working. Because and here's another, we talked about how you can know that it's an expansive sort, right? So there are all now these gatherings at state houses and other places. So it doesn't just have to be the state house of a state. It can, so lots of people can go to just local places, wherever the county courthouse is, right? Or those places to show their support. But they're all peaceful. I mean, okay, there's a lot of chanting and stuff, but they're all peaceful. And because there is not that need to force, and violence is a subjugation, right? It's a hierarchical subjugation. You may be terrified while you're doing something violent, but that's a way to make yourself bigger so that they're less than you. And there isn't any of that.
Right. Well,
which is why you have photographs where and an action being taken because people came out with flags, and there's one thing where this woman is screaming at the police officers to arrest them and make them go away, and they're like, ma'am, what did you want us to arrest for? Well, they're here with flags. He said, ma'am, they're Americans. They're holding American flags. They're within their right to do that. They're not hurting you in any way. They are. Can't you see? They're violent and they're intimidating me. And the officers were, I have to tell you, they were but they're like, okay, a little nutso here, right? But, and she couldn't understand. So clearly she'd been her own flag of her own country. She'd been so broken and intimidated and mantraed into this kind of a thing. But yet she is a singularity. She's becoming a singularity. She's becoming, you know, a fully embodied truth of who she is, which is a magnificent creator being. And there, so part of that outward reaction you see, or that I watched, you know, on this video, is a fight within herself. The other ones are just kind of window dressing on what that fight that's going on within herself, on the heart cracking, you know, open, and it's that clinging to that.
Well, I love the way you put that, first of all, BZ, that because there's going to be a lot of that heart cracking going on.
Oh, a lot of it.
And that's why I feel like seeing it in that way, through that lens, that it is an internal battle, actually, that being might be projecting onto whatever is handy.
Yeah.
And if you happen to be handy, it'll be you. But trying to keep that information right here, because the truth of it is that there's not an untraumatized, damaged, there is no human on this earth that has escaped programming, conditioning, and some sort of trauma. There isn't. That it doesn't exist. We all might as well forget that. Everybody you come in contact has all that same thing.
And that's why the compassion is very important. And the boundaries, personal boundaries, and holding the line on your frequency, and the frequency that you will not let yourself drop below.
Which includes arguing too with all of that.
Well, but so you're compassionate, but you're not a doormat. You're compassionate. So so the cop was, you know, he was laughing, going, "Well, ma'am, this is, you know," and she was demanding that I'm going to take your badge number and speak to your supervisor. You need to rest. He said, "Ma'am," she said, "Well, I have to leave." And he said, "Well, why? It's a beautiful day." Because she'd come with her kids or dogs or something to go to the park. He said, "Go enjoy yourself." He said, "Well, you know," and so it's, again, it's that he happened to be a police officer, but I'm talking, this is for everybody. So you have the compassion, you have that open-hearted, where if you want to converse a bit and try to reason, okay, but also you hold your core. So you hold your boundaries, and you do not let anyone trot upon you. Because you couldn't do a greater disservice and a more uncompassionate, and here's the thing to remember, a more uncompassionate act to that being by not having your boundaries.
That's true. A lot of people have trouble with creating their own boundaries, but it's time for all of us to do that, I think.
And they might not like it, but the bottom line is, we don't always crave what we need. But what they need is an example of how one does that.
Yes.
Yeah, and well, so again, I'll say it like this: those of us who think we know a thing and be that example, should we choose?
Yes.
I feel like.
And that's where the holding within inside of you is. So it's that compassion, right? That unreserved, open-hearted compassion, and that velvet wrapped titanium of your boundaries, of your life force, of your knowing. You don't have to get head up about it. You don't have to do anything. You can be absolute compassion, and you have that absolute resolve of the knowingness of who you are. That's the holy. And the beauty and the strength and the gorgeous exquisiteness of you know, your light shining forth at that moment, and it's shining forth from the inside out, is a way to give people a vision of that, to see that in action. They may absolutely spit and sputter and fume and, you know, call you all sorts of names.
Yep.
But nonetheless, it's like, going to a sampling table and taking a little sample of something. Your tongue's still there. So you're going to be tasting it and sampling it as you go on, and either in that moment or later on, a spark will light that you've chosen to let light.
Mhm.
And you'll do it for somebody else.
Yeah, well, there's I don't know why I feel compelled to share this, so I'm going to just share it. I know that Thanksgiving is coming up, and a lot of folks that, they go home for Thanksgiving and it's a minefield because, everybody's sleeping still. And so I guess what I decided that from now on, what I would say in any kind of circumstance, because really this is kind of what I think I did where it comes to president. Because hey, look, when Lisa and I watched the inauguration right here in this house, and I still thought it was a joke. I didn't understand.
I know, we were like, well, we have to watch this inauguration.
Yeah, because is this for
What's
me?
going on?
Me with this? Is this, I thought it was going to be a episode. Joke's on you. It's really an episode of The Apprentice, and he's not really, I don't know what I was thinking,
But talk about a heart-opening moment. I mean, what was going on there, and the way that he clearly saw. I have to put that back as sticky again. But I have the speech and the video of it. You see, and I just highlight a few things. But he, in that moment, is telling you that, yeah, he's standing at the podium and all the hoopla and the celebration and the pageantry and and the whole bestowing of the presidency, and he's saying, "I'm giving your country back to you."
Yeah, while he's got the Marines.
All of the branches of
the whole military.
all
Everybody just kind of stepped in,
yes,
right?
and so
And had his back on that message. That felt just so
it was
powerful.
just spectacular.
well, I remember when it happened, when Lisa and I watched it live, I actually said to Lisa, because again, I didn't have any of this on board. Okay.
No, well, either did I.
I didn't have any of this on board. And I said to Lisa, I said, I think somebody miscued the military. I don't think they were supposed to come down and stand behind him right now, because I wasn't paying attention, again, obviously, because later on, and see what some may not realize, but I do remember very well, is that you see the first trial in Knoxville, not trial, hearing was October the 18th, 2017. 10 days later was the first Q post.
Mm-hmm.
And so by this time now, I'm seeing a whole bunch of things in a different light than when he was inaugurated. And now I'm getting involved with BZ, and I'm seeing things that I didn't see before. One of them was when we went and revisited that speech. And I listened this time when the military came down behind him, and that was important.
Yeah.
That
I heard him the first time, but I have to tell you, I was very accustomed to hearing things, I call it say anything, that sound correct, that sound delightful, that sound like we're moving finally in the right direction. But their actions, their doings do not match what they're saying at all.
Right.
So honestly, I heard what he was saying, and part of me went, yeah, that sounds really, really good. But I just felt like it was, more of the same crapola, where we say this and then we're over here doing this. And listen to what I'm saying, and please don't pay any attention to what I'm doing over here.
And so you both have given a, you know, in slightly different versions, but a very good example, word picture of eyes to see and ears to hear.
Yes, and this is why I'm pointing this out so very specifically, because I was viewing that entire thing through not just the eyes of a skeptic, because it was worse than a skeptic.
Right?
I thought it was I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Okay, so my mind wasn't open,
No.
my heart wasn't open. And in fact, at the moment that the military came down and stand behind him, I thought it was a queuing error. I was not present. I wasn't really focused on anything other than what the hell am I seeing?
And that's why the noticing. So you can be staunchly in all the things that you just described, or staunchly in all the things that Lisa just described. You don't have to give any of that up. But if you're noticing rather than observing, because observing oftentimes goes to our where we're staunchly whatever. If you just notice, where as if you've never seen it for the first time, and you're not having a running commentary for a moment, you're just noticing, then you go, huh, all those guys in those different colored uniforms are all, oh, that's it, that's it, right? There's no this or this, just notice and go, And
Yeah,
what
I noticed it all
happened,
right, but I thought it was an error. See, that's what I'm saying.
but it percolates within you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the effervescent, you know, puzzle piece or dot connecting going on, because it percolates and you go, huh, and this one flows, and then they start and you go, oh yeah. Now, oftentimes what will happen is you go, oh yeah. Now your brain may go, what the hell? What is, oh yeah, what? What are you, what? Right? But your beingness goes, oh yeah. And you mentioned this, Sheila, you said when you first had read, or Lisa, I guess that said this, when she first read some of Heather's paperwork, you know, her body, right, was like, oh yeah, and her mind's like, WTF, but her body's going, oh yeah, right, you know, and I had a where I was at the time, there were some other people. I'm like, oh, this is fabulous. And someone said, what? I said, oh, is it? You know, and I described a bunch of things, and they're like, huh? Well, wait, show me. I said, no, you can't. You got to feel it, sort of a thing. And that's where the noticing goes in. That's where, when you look at the stuff that's going with the election and the fallout and all that kind of stuff, there, and if you're feeling nervous or you're feeling like, oh, yet again, something's been put off, or, you know, any of those kinds of things, that's where noticing will really help you. Instead of, you can keep your fear, you can keep your trepidation, you can keep your damn rat bastards, you can keep all that. No one's asking you to get rid of it. You know, keep playing with it if you want to. But notice things. Notice in Sydney Powell in her conversation with Maria this morning, and what she lays out, and just notice that. So when she turns that one card over, so she's talking about the election and the algorithms and then this and that and the other thing, and they're stealing this, and you're okay, you're foaming at the mouth. Okay, great. But then the card goes over. When she turns the card, and she does it very softly, very clearly, very directly, very explicitly, but very softly. And the Bernie comes in about, you know, then you can notice that actually we've turned a corner. So we've turned more of an absolute data corner. We've turned more of a revelations corner. We've turned more light shining on corner. And you're going to see, and that was early this morning. Since then, there have been a whole bunch of other dots from all myriad of millions of beings that have laid new cards down as well to do all. You yourself have laid those things down throughout the day, and noticing, you know, you can keep, if you're attached to whatever it is you got going on, cool. But the noticing lets you go, huh. You can go right back to, right, you know. But the
Well,
hot
that's true. The
land,
noticing is an important part. I honestly, noticing is very much like, for me, is very much like puzzle piece collecting. Just allowing it in and holding it, whether I really grok it or not, just holding it. Doesn't necessarily have to fit anywhere.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a really important point you're bringing up there, because I remember when we first got the news that like he was gonna be the candidate for the Republican Party, and I just thought, well, how can that even be? And what I noticed was I was extremely emotionally upset and agitated by the news.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that. Again, I just thought it was a joke.
I didn't
Fraction.
react. I responded. I just went, oh, well, that's an interesting reaction. You know, like, how come you're acting like this is a personal affront? You know, like I just kind of looked at my own reaction to it and just sat there with it instead of verbalizing it and immediately embodying it. And a lot of people were, so I wouldn't have been the odd man out to take that stance, but I chose to just sit with it. And I was surprised because I really thought that I had made so much progress. But by the way, affront of getting so triggered about stuff. But I now see feeling that emotional agitation, because it's very emotional. It's very in the body. It's very, I see that as pain. It's a sign that there's something that's not quite in alignment within me that I need to, stop, take a breath, look at, sit with, and just kind of, go within and zip my lip. And then that's exactly what I did. After I did that for a while, I decided that there was no real reason for me to be upset about anything. And I didn't beat myself up for having that reaction. I just noticed it. And after a while, I began to notice more and more and more that I probably could have seen, when I was busy thinking it was a Saturday Night Live skit, like this can't be right, dismissing it and just saying, and telling anybody who will listen, he is not going to be president. That will never happen. This is so ridiculous. I don't even know why we're playing at this game. There's so
Like Rachel Maddow.
what?
I said you sounded like Rachel Maddow there.
Right? Well, hey, we've had a lot of example of yeah. So I'm just feeling like now, I am grateful for that little jolt because it alerts me to something. And if I pay attention to the alert, then I can get things where they need to be before I have an accident. Like my oil light has come on. Oh, hang on a second. I forgot to pay attention to my engine here. Let me get under the hood and spend some time with it.
Well, I'm really glad you brought it out in just that way, Lisa, because honestly, that what you're speaking to there, a lot of folks still haven't gotten to that point yet. And I'm not always the greatest at monitoring my immediate reactions to things either just yet.
Yeah, well, me either. I'm learning to do that.
But I'm always reminded when anything like that happens, BZ, I hear your voice. Just so you know, I got your voice in my head that says that, because we've discussed this before because of me, right? I mean, this is a real life example, what Lisa's talking about here. Because if there's anything, doesn't matter what it is, who said it, who did it, whatever, I don't care what the such is. If I'm having a visceral reaction of any sort that pulls me out of that center that you were speaking on there, whoever whatever, it doesn't matter what it is,
Right.
the whoever, the whatever, the situation, the person, whatever it is, can actually just drop off the planet, because it has absolutely nothing to do with them. It has to do with me and only me, because I'm the one having the reaction.
Yeah. You can have a little GIF, a GIF that moves. So you can have a little GIF that you create your own, put in your brain, right? So when that kind of stuff happens, and you can see it's like, instead of the shit hitting the fan, right? It's your distortion flinging off of you. And when it slaps against the edge of something as it, spirals out, that's, your ping of reaction. That's your visceral stuff. So all that, is flying it off. It's funny when probably a little later in the whole trajectory of Trump coming, but I started to pay a little bit more attention to it. Didn't pay that much, and I thought, really, that's interesting. Now I'm not seeing how this is going to be the trajectory to where we're going, and clearly I'm not getting the whole picture of why that choice. And so I said, as I often do, I said, show me. And I think it was in a day or two, I was nudged. I came across an article, which I have on the IUB. Sometimes I make it sticky, but it's photographs that were found of him with his children when they were just babies, and so on and so forth. And the light coming, so in other words, reading his energy, reading the whole pictures of that. I didn't read any of the words, but just that. And I published it right away, and I looked at it and I thought, well, yeah, that's brilliant. Makes perfect sense. I mean, because I could see beyond the caricature, right, of having to, and we're all really lucky that he's had that caricature, because that's helped him have the wherewithal to move as a puzzle piece, right? A pawn in the game, one of Source's, tools to go places for all those things. But I could drill past all of that when I saw those photographs, because it was clear as if I'd gotten, the plans and all the ops and all the things right there, which I had. It just was in that particular crystal. I thought, well, yeah, that's going to be cool. This is going to be great.
Well, it's just that there's so much that has been said about a lot of what's going on, and all the personal attacks and that sort of thing too. And there's so much. But I have to say that, quite frankly, overall, even though, like I said, I actually said to my dad, because my dad was a big Trump supporter from the beginning, and I spent a whole lot of my time the year of 2015 with my father when he was still living in North Carolina. And so, I heard a lot about Trump because he was on the campaign trail. And every time that it came up, I was like, Dad, I know that you're supporting him. Don't get me wrong. I don't want Hillary either. But I don't understand exactly what it is, but it feels like he's a distraction to me, because I just can't. I really did think it was a joke. And again, remember, lifelong Democrat, wasn't, like I said, didn't trust Hillary, because at this point I was, eyeballs deep in the conspiracy stuff and all the deaths that have mounted up around that couple just on their own face. Gotta make a question go off in anybody's head if you look at it. Especially that stuff with Vince Foster when all that came out. I think his name is Vince Foster, wasn't it? Well, anyway.
Well, he was one of many.
Yeah, he was one of, but I mean, when that came out in that particular way is when my consciousness turned in that direction, and I saw all the deaths that had mounted up around them, right? So, but at any rate, I just, so coming from that to what I feel now, and having watched all of what's happened through this past his term here, I've seen it, because I'm not listening to what the talking heads say. I've listened to the words as they've come out of his mouth, and I've gone and sought out full clips where they've used clips, that sort of thing. I've watched every documentary I can get my hands on in regards to it. I've seen lots and lots and lots of old footage and all that sort of stuff. And two, knowing, again, part of the reason I felt like it was a joke, right, was because of the reality TV part. Also, I mean, my God, one of his bestest buds is Vince McMahon with the WWE. And if you don't think for a second that there's not been some coaching up in there about how to do this or that or the other on stage, it's like, there's so much that I see in a wholly different light now than I did before, that I know that a lot of others can't see. But I while we were doing this, I wanted to bring up something that Lisa and I have kind of chatted about a time or two. We, not that long ago, there was a big deal made out of some general that said that he made a horrific comment as they were standing in front of the general's fallen son. And that the comment was something to the tune of that, he died for nothing. Really? You know what? He did die for nothing. And quite frankly, I'm shocked at the way everybody acted over that. I could see our commander in chief standing before a gravesite of a fallen soldier and lamenting because the boy was sent to fight something that he should never have been sent to fight for, and be disgusted by what he sees. And I'm sorry.
Was a resolve to do what he's doing right now.
Exactly.
Slings and arrows that he's taking, for the
I know. And that's why I say, that was one of the things that really, I can see that having been said. And that whole thing about,
not in a way that the way that it's twisted. It was
no, because it's that twist.
Grieving and such heartitude with that. Yes,
Yep.
just genuine sadness at the loss of the child for what had to be endured, and a doubling of efforts to make sure that then it may have actually been for nothing, but it will be part of the road that unraveled it all.
Right. Well, because I felt the same way about the grabbing of the pussy comment. I'll be honest with you. I'm outing it right now. I can see somebody like Trump saying something to the effect, yeah, I can walk into any place I want and grab a pussy because I got $1 billion butts. But this guy over, and I'm sorry, but I can see him saying something like that, being disgusted by the fact that that's a true statement. Mm-hmm. Personally, that's what I felt like it very well could have been. And none of us were there to hear that comment or hear the entire context of the comment. And the truth of the matter is, for what I see in regards to the man, no, he's not a polished politician who knows how to smooth talk yet. And for my money, that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, look at the supposedly good, smooth politicians and that, that didn't get elected, and much to the chagrin of all of the, forced elections, you get what you get, and what you get is honest, and it may be raw and it may be rough and bumpy sometimes, but it's genuine.
No, exactly correct. You know, I mean, I listen. I used to tell Lisa every time because we watched the coronavirus briefings every day while they were going on every day. And every time when Trump would speak and then Pence would get up there beside him, that to me was the most brilliant move in history, as far as I'm concerned. Because anybody who's paying attention got to see what a real, authentic human being dealing with a crisis sounds like, and what a polished politician who's saying a whole bunch of nothing really big, spectacular sounds like. Smooth as silk. Boy, I'm telling you. I mean, I'm just the contrast between the two of them was so fabulous for me. It pointed out exactly what I really would prefer in a politician as somebody who don't know really how to do a whole bunch of this and say absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not impressed with smooth talking. I'm really impressed with follow through. I'm impressed when you do as you say you're going to do, when your yes means yes and your no means no. Now I want to play. And I didn't feel that he was any different than any politician until the inauguration when we noticed a few things, right? And I went, I wonder what I've been missing, right? And so we went back and we started listening to his campaign speeches, and they brought me to tears. And then I thought, well, he knows what to say. Now let's see what he do. And I mean, this man did not even waste 5 seconds. You know, he went in there and he started doing immediately. And he has been doing nonstop. And what he's doing is congruent with the words that are coming out of his mouth. And maybe they're not polished and shiny. And sometimes they're not even spelt correctly on Twitter.
Well, that's on purpose.
I know, but let us also acknowledge that people are using that as another sign that this man is a buffoon.
Right.
But to me, even if they were just misspellings, it shows his authenticity. He's just being himself, and he's not concerned so much with winning over audiences or votes. To me, everything that I've witnessed him doing has to do with giving the country back to the people. And so I respect that and can get behind that 100%, irregardless of any flaws that he may or may not have had. Because I cannot sit here and tell you that I haven't done things that I regret, that I haven't hurt people with my words or actions. I cannot claim that. And so for me to sit here and expect that from another human being is kind of silly.
Well,
that's
it goes kind of across the grain of yourself too. So yeah.
right.
Right.
And what's going on right this moment? I guess I am a little surprised. I mean, maybe not for people who don't like him anyways, or who. I guess I'm surprised that there's so many people who are buying that if the mainstream media is telling you that you have a president-elect Biden, that there's something to freak out about. So, but maybe it isn't surprising because it's just showing that there's an awful lot of beings that were doing a very good, and it's hard work, but they're doing a very good job having an intellectual exercise on the waking up. And now this is another big knock. It's another big shattering. So huge, hard expansion to have you step back a bit and notice and see, okay, well, that's interesting, because none of this is a surprise. No, certainly to Trump, and certainly to the team that's, and the stuff, that the level of stuff that's going on behind the scenes. Some people may think, oh, they're scrambling. You may just think that. You don't need the media to kind of try to portray that they're rushing to get this and find these things and somehow pull this out. And if they're scrambling, I mean, there's a lot of work doing, and because you've got to dot the I's in a linear, tangible, touchable way, and then present it, right? Because it has to be how you unwind and unbind the game. But if there is scrambling, it's not from, the guy who's way down and not who is the standing president and doesn't have the Chiron banner on the news programs as the president-elect, right? It's all the other ones, because they can't figure out how their absolute foolproof plan that they've been doing for decades and eons, right? And that they really had finely tuned, because they've been working on it since Hillary, shocker of all shockers to them, because they had her, frauded in to win the other time. All that time they can't. So that's where the panic. And there's huge stuff, and there's a lot of conversations and a lot of deals, or they think it's a deal. They don't get much choice on the deals, but there's a lot of, what do I need to do that I don't go to Gitmo forever, or that I don't get because of treason and sedition? How can I have my treason and sedition and actually live, in whatever small little way that is, to have that? So that's where the panic is going on. But it's also, beyond that, to me, it's a wonderful thing, because it is such a heart-cracking open moment.
Yeah, I really do think you're right about that. That's what it's. I mean, yes, that it is happening on this 3D level, and yes, that's a very real thing. But just like everything else, for me anyway, I see it all as the metaphor for what's going on right here, all of it, because all of it has to come out. Now, I'm walking into it as wide open as I think I can keep my eyes. I'm very careful, because I don't want to say my eyes are wide open, because I will find out that there's some layer of my eyes that weren't open. I just know that. I know that. So I don't want to claim, knowledge of much of anything, because I also know that we're all stepping into the unknown as this all unwinds and unbinds. And I mean, there was something.
That's one of the cool things. What you were saying is something you said in the video that you and Lisa did. But stepping into the unknown, on the one hand, yeah, it's unknown, and you're kind of navigating, and it's uncomfortable, or it's exciting, or a combination of all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool thing is that it's a warm, long known friend, even though it's the unknown. So on the one hand, it's the unknown to whatever magnitude of you that you are before you step into the unknown, of your own capability to have eyes to see and ears to hear of this much. And so this next step is unknown, but
Right.
you keep catching up with yourself. And in that moment you go, oh, that's where I left that teddy bear, or whatever it is. Or, oh, that's that road. I know this road. I love this road, right? In whatever galaxy that you're going through.
Yeah,
And so it's only our pretending with ourselves. It doesn't mean that there aren't joyous revelations or new experiences of something, but the way that it unfolds for me is every time that there's a new expansion and that point of unknown, or wow, how am I gonna navigate this or realize, wait a minute, this is actually what I asked for, right? No, it doesn't look anything like what I asked for, but this is exact, right? So I can see, and because when you can meet up to yourself, again, instead of going, this isn't what I wanted, I wanted a Ferrari, and that is a jalopy, and right? But that's where you're reacting instead of going, huh,
Yeah.
cool, a jalopy. Okay, well, you know. And so we can meet up with that. And anytime we can use this as a great example because it's hyper acceleration of that stepping into the unknown and knowing it, being thrilled that you're there and catching up to speed with yourself and it there, and then seeing the next step or the next door or the next path, however you want to say it, of more unknownness, where so you're always in the knowing of it. It's just how you're choosing in that moment to navigate it.
Yeah, that's true. I wanted to share with you guys something that Lori Wheeler said that I have to agree with. She said that people don't get and don't understand also the way New Yorkers talk. It's very offensive to a lot of people. They are rough and tough all the way around. Who's speaking about what we were, talking about with Donald Trump's speech.
Well, and they can tone it down, being a New Yorker, and I used to say former, but a lot of New Yorkers I know say, "Bees, you can't be former." So,
Right.
Yeah.
but
Well,
also there is that telling it like it is, and you
yeah.
do it in a way that there is such fierce love and compassion and gentleness and genuineness behind it, but yet, you'll tell it like it is.
Well, Kevin asks the question, how do you think that the pandemic comes to an end? And personally, I just I although I've give up on this part, I still am having trouble with the whole why are we calling this a pandemic again? Because I don't know, maybe there's some legal thing about it, but it seems to me anything that has a greater than 95% recovery rate shouldn't be called a pandemic.
Well, again, those are monikers, and people not, a large portion of people not wanting to actually think a thing, to actually put dots together to go, holy smokes. Well, Kevin, I would say a couple of things is, in a lot of areas, pandemic's gone. So, on all the MSMs, all the people are dying and this and that and everything. That's just because they're so busy. Hey, bright and shiny, president-elect, vice president, the first woman, da 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 da, all that kind of stuff. Over here, look over here, right? And the parties that they're having in celebration of people cheek to jowl, sans mask, everything else. And at the same time, over in Europe and a lot of other places, yes, there are huge, really vicious crackdowns and lockdowns, and it's because of the pandemic and because of all that kind of stuff. But nobody, even the dyed in the wool diaper on the face, nappy on the face ones, are going, hang on, this is. So again, it's one of those things where it's exaggerated, and it's that heart opening, heart cracking open sort of a thing. So in essence, it's ended already.
Yeah.
Some people are in the habit of, nappy on the face wearing and all that kind of stuff. But they're also now in this fight within themselves about realizing their own freedom and their own sovereignty and their own singularity. And the candle wattage of that is so brilliant that it, even try as we might in our own selves, we can't fight against that. It's not going to stop.
Right. No, I don't think it is either. And like I said, I think it's just each one, I guess, will wake up to different things again, still at different times.
Well, and they've got us, people have got to, it'll happen faster. I mean, they're calling the, people are calling in the pandemic and the constraints and all that kind of stuff for themselves every time they comply with it. Every time they put a mask on, every time they stand 6 feet apart, every time you're saying, hey, yeah, I like it. Keep doing it to me and keep taking more of my freedoms away and keep doing all this. And people are now not doing that anymore.
That's exactly what they said too. Um, it was about, yay, we finally have a president who's going to do something about the pandemic.
Really?
Yeah, they're really laying it out. They said something, and of course they had framed it to be about Trump, that if you, and it was a warning to his enablers. Trump supporters are now enablers. I thought that was really cute. And it was a warning that if you comply with him, he's going to take more and more, because he will see this as permission that you are allowing him to use and manipulate you. So that's only going to get worse and worse. And I thought, well, they're
Wow, that's not a projection at all, is
no,
it?
that's a warning.
It is a warning, and it's one of those things. Again, it's one of those things where that it's not. It is of love. It is a full expansion. It is of absolute source guided unfolding, because it's not hierarchical. Because they're not kidding. As far as Biden and the rest of them, which are just low level puppets for those who pull their strings, anybody wearing a mask is a stupid, useless idiot. And as soon as they're not useful for having shunning people and shaming people, to get rid of them, stick them in a corner, put them in a gulag, do something, because they're so spineless, we can't really even do much with them. I mean, it's kind of hard, at least a slave has got to have a little backbone, so that, when that resistance, that right there, I mean, come on, if you're going to think about things as a commodity and what you want, if you have a horse that's supposed to be a workhorse, that's supposed to pull the plow, he better have some muscle. She better have some muscle, a little spine, a little spunk to, to get going, or be pissed off if you whip them on the ass to dig in a little harder, because they're thinking next time they're going to get you back. If you've got this wet noodle, spineless, they're really not very useful, except for kind of being a poster child for do as you're told and muffle yourself and all that kind of stuff. And when you don't need that, because you have people snowed or so locked in that unless they can get arms or finally realize that it's all or nothing time to get out.
Well, I have to tell you that it's been my experience too, because I've come across someone like this in my own life that really doesn't see the need for the mask, doesn't believe it helps anything whatsoever, and yet knows that this is all BS, and yet is still carrying it around and slapping it on. And the only thing I can feel within me is that because I asked myself, what is that about? And I actually said it to this person. Is that about not wanting the confrontation? What is that? Because I don't get it. I don't grok it, and I'd like to. And yeah, part of it is, it's really not that big a deal to me. So I just rather, and I'm like,
and that is exactly what they're counting on. And when it's, and if the Orange Man bad and all that kind of stuff, and the millions of other beings who are awake and who will not let this stand, and we're done with this, starting with source, that's exactly what they're counting on, because you do that, you know, a couple of times and you perpetuate that, and then you've reached the point where, yay, you chose, and that's what you get, and it's going to be forever. And yeah, you're right, it's not a big deal because we'll just shoot you in the head, no problem. It's not,
Yeah.
not a big deal. That's a piece of cake. You know, but I mean that, and that's the other thing that's very important for everybody to see, and that's why it's no coincidence. There are no such things. It's no coincidence the timing that you have on both sides of the pond, right? Of what's going on. You see clearly all of the fraud and all of the plan and all of the orchestrated and very easily manipulated, because they have whole algorithms and systems, and you know, they keep just getting better at it. When a few people wake up, okay, we got to shift this here. But at the same time, you're seeing this beautiful collage of where we actually already were. You know, a lot of people say, oh, we almost got taken over, or we almost, no, we were there. They just hadn't sewn the last little bit of the pretty bow on it. And so when you look at what's going on in Europe and all those different places, right? And you will add a third image, you know, to that Trinity is going on. And over in Wuhan, right? They've got the psychedelic music, and they're in the what's it called? Discos or whatever, the new thing, I can't think of the word, but you know, nightclubs, right? And they're all cheek to jowl. There's no mask, and that's where it's came from, because they know, right? So, but you have this, and they think they're, you know, well, the Xi thinks he's gonna pull the thing, right? But this is the unwinding and unbinding. You have to have all of these things fully and fiercely evident so people can see it.
The thing that I can't find it. I've been trying to flip over to my other screen and see if I could find it. There was something that I was reading about, you know, all of this with the hammer and scorecard, that I just found, and it stated in there that this program, whatever it is that they're speaking on, or at least in that one article, and I was trying to find it so I don't misquote it, but I wasn't able to. I like I said about those of us who think we know a thing, we're gonna find out lots of things that we really didn't know, and this, I'm not surprised by it, but this, whatever this program is that's in there, that's switching these, you know, vote things around, was created by the CIA.
Yes,
for us to do the same thing to other countries.
All over the, oh yeah, absolutely. We've been doing it for centuries.
Right. So I know that we all would rather not think about that kind of thing, but you know, I'm feeling like, you know, well, who the hell do we think?
Yeah. Right.
But it's the same thing that has to do with all the wars and everything else. It's all the same. It's all about power. It's all about money. And it's that great big club, as George Carlin used to say, and we ain't in it. And it feels like it's just all coming out now in such a huge way for that. So obviously, that's all going to be coming out too.
Oh, all of it's coming out.
Yeah. So
and that's why, you know, and that, what I'm about to mention is definitely below the fold, because above the fold is actually going to be harder for most people. But below the fold, the treachery and depravity, and people like your friend that you were mentioning, well, you know, it's only a little while. The millions and millions and billions of people in every country and whatever who have said that, and basically said, yeah, keep doing that depravity, keep doing that sheer revulsion, keep doing that evil, no big deal. I mean, you know, it's no, I consent, not only consent, but I'm backing you up.
Yeah,
I'm giving you license to, and I'm complicit in and supporting that. And that's, so the level of all of that stuff that people, if they don't already have an inkling or know it now, coming out is overwhelming. And it's huge, and it's all dovetailed. But it pales, all of that pales in comparison to the actual, when you get into the whole, which is above all of that, still below the fold, is the financial slavery system around the globe. And all that fits into that.
Which is all tied into all of it. That's why it's all,
It all
every
feeds
bit
in,
of
yeah,
it connected.
that's the puppet master that, but it's still below the fold. What's above the fold is the, you could say, the mirror image of the sublime, exquisite brilliance and, you know, enormity, the sheer enormity of who you are and what you are and what you encompass and encase and can create will absolutely blow your doors off.
Sure has
That's
mine.
where that's where the hard part is, because when you start to truly feel that and meet that, it will bring you to your knees. Not in a bad way at all, but it will be devastating, because it will actually shine a light on all the other things that you've been complicit in and part of, and it'll be something, not that anyone's, again, there's no tribunal, there's no, you know, um, uh, any kind of judgment there. It's purely for you to just align and whole, right, and bring it into what it was, which was integration and expansion. You know, you traveled all the way out, away from source to no source. You fed back the telemetry, and then you've turned, you know, and you come back.
Well, I'm really glad that you ladies were down with coming and having this chat, because, you know, I feel like we will do this again. Probably on this very same subject, actually, as things move forward. And I don't know, it's because I personally have been feeling really calm, and I just feel like it's all going exactly to plan. The
Yeah.
overall, the big overall arching, my plan, most specifically, I'll just put it that way. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I know it's all unfolding according to my plan. So everybody just calm down. Anyway, that's what I'm feeling. And I really appreciate the two of you coming and chatting. And I really appreciate all of you that have come, and you guys have been great. I've been watching your comments there's been no real questions to speak of, but everyone's been real active, and I really appreciate. At one time, ladies, we got up to 35 beings in the room. That's, I think, one of the largest live conversations that we've had. So that's awesome. I want to thank everyone for coming and joining us.
Well,
And
it's that mix of calm and ecstatic that, you know, I
mhm.
mean, the creational electricity that is just firing all this stuff is so gobsmackingly delicious.
Yes, and I want to say too that see, there are really are no coincidences. What you just said there, BZ, about the static, and you did this right here. I have to tell you all that I've seen, and I will be recording some of the astrology that's coming up for this week. And boy, oh boy, are we, yeah, that you ain't kidding right there. You are just not kidding. Jupiter and Pluto are coming in for their third and final conjunction, and they are going to be just a few arc minutes away from the exact same conjunction for the Saturn and Pluto conjunction that happened in January. So this is a huge week on a whole lot of different levels, not just what's going on. Say what, Lisa?
The third time's the charm.
Right. Well, and it's tearing,
Next time they need it. Oh, sorry.
tearing all things down, and the ignition force as those things get torn down is just absolutely jet propulsions for the creational force.
Yep, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I've said this before. We are going to, I don't know who else going to be involved just yet, but I am going to be doing a live weekly show. And it's going to be called Stepping into the Unknown. And I'm looking for guests, and I'm looking over at my tablet at all you in the chat right there. So
Yes,
will
our
be
unknown.
that's right. So, if you're interested in coming on and participating in that, or, like I said, later on next week, I'll be announcing the date for the first one and the time of it. So it will be a regular weekly thing. And I know that I'll be able to entice the two of you to come back and do this very same kind of thing again. I hope. Probably this time next week.
No, never again.
Yeah, you're funny. I know where you
Wild
live.
horses.
Little bear
Run over me.
It'll be easier and harder all at the same time.
I was going to say, I would like to point out something, BZ. Not once did we have puppy interrupt us. That was something that BZ was concerned about because she's got a new puppy about going live. And I think he did extremely well.
He did, but we had to get ready for it. We had lots of extra walks and lots.
Oh.
Wait, you did a terrific job.
Started at 5 a.m. this morning working off our stuff, between work and everything else, and lunch was spent walking all around.
Gotta wear them out, man.
Yeah.
You want to sleep?
I'm worn out, and actually he is too, but
Well,
he's got his sweet little bear face on right now, just
okay.
meek and gentle as a lamb.
Well, I'm really grateful that you did all of that so that you could be here with us live tonight. So thank you so much.
Greatly appreciate it.
And Shaylee Walsh, I'm so glad that you did come back. That's awesome. And I will look forward to your email. And I'm sorry you didn't get here until just now, but hey, you can see the replay. And I really appreciate all you guys for coming and hanging out with us. And, it was great. And I really appreciate the two of you. And there will be links to the IUV where you can find all kinds of really great up to the moment information about what really is going on around here, what may or may not be, and just look around. There's so much. My gosh, you've had that IUV for, well, I've known you for 3 years now, but you had it since long before that. Yes.
Back in, we officially launched it in March of 2013.
2013. So talk about a plethora of information. One could get lost just taking a tour around the IUV. I will tell you that. And so we'll have links to the IUV and BZ's YouTube channel. So here's the deal too. Of course, you wouldn't be watching it live on BZ's YouTube channel, but if you're watching the replay on her channel and you're not subscribed to Conscious Conversation Central, I would love it if you would come over and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And I invite all of you who are subscribed to Conscious Conversation Central to do the same at BZ's channel, which again will be linked in the show more section here, as both of us actually do videos that neither of us appear in. So I have things on my channel that she doesn't have. She has things on her channel that I don't have. And so, you want to be signed up at both places so you
Soon
can
to have a lot more things on my channel.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's right. You got a lot more stuff over there because you've been there a lot longer than me.
No, I meant soon to be doing a lot more stuff over there.
Ah, well, yes, I know. And I'm excited for that too. So that's awesome. And I guess that's it for now. Do either one of you have anything else you would like to share or?
I would say I love you. Keep calm, keep exhilarated, and you choose how you navigate and make things unfold. It really is as simple and as powerful as that.
How about you, Lisa?
No, just thank you for the beautiful conversation. I enjoyed it very much.
All right. Well, till next time. Thanks, everybody. Mwah. And I'll see most of you probably tomorrow if you come on by for the live. I'm pretty sure I'll be doing a live in the morning. So. Mwah.